Hey, Brad Samuels here from Foundations. I am up in northern British Columbia right now in Prince George, up at my old university. I haven't been here in a long time. I think it's been maybe a decade now since I've been here. So I just wandered through the halls and tons of memories came back. This place has a very distinct smell, so lots of nostalgia came back, just memories very linked to smell. And yeah, I thought it'd be a really good place to shoot a video and talk about education and just learning in general, because this is really a place where it's the place where I really learned to study. I wasn't much for education growing up until I got to university and found my first thing that I wanted to study, which was finance. But yeah, we're here in front of the UNBC sign. I don't think I've ever sat here in my life. But today I wanted to talk about learning and the difference between active and passive learning. And really that's the question I would like anyone watching this video to ask themselves. I found a really interesting study about centurions. Now, centurions are people who live, it's kind of communities where a large percentage of the people live past the age of 100. And there was some really interesting, just a list of the things that those communities do that other communities don't, that don't tend to live as long. So I thought I'd read some of that list, just because it's really great to know. It's good information. So they tend to have a high intake of raw wild plants. They tend to spend a lot of time with family and an integrated community that they're a part of and they care deeply about. Don't smoke. They avoid processed foods. Oh man, we're getting winded out. They do work that they care about. They're generally very open people. They tend to spend a lot of time in nature, tend to drink lots of clean water, eat lots of legumes. Usually they tend to have a low intake of caloric intake, so just they don't tend to eat that much. So I think the idea behind that is, I've read a little bit about it, but the idea is that your digestion is a really high energy thing that your body does, and if you can kind of give that a break, it's less difficult on the body over the course of a lifetime. Low stress levels. This one's fun. They stay sexually active for a long time. They actually termed it reproductively useful, which is really great. They tend to have low alcoholic consumption in the form of red wines usually, and they tend to have a very strong spiritual discipline and a strong life purpose. And the last one on the list is they are continuous active learners. And that also reminds me of my grandpa. My grandpa is 100 years old right now, and when I looked at this list and looked at him, he matches almost all of this. He has a very deep spiritual discipline. He has never had any alcohol or smoked any cigarettes in his entire life. And he is still studying. My grandfather has 4 PhDs. 4. His first PhD was, I think, in divinity. Then he did one in music. Then he did philosophy. Then he did psychology. I'm struggling here with just one degree. But the point is that he's still studying. My grandfather is still studying today. He's 101 years old now, almost now, and he's now studying politics. And when I say studying, he's actively studying. He does his recordings and he's taking notes and doing all the things that you do when you're studying. And if there's anything I learned at UNBC here is, it's the first time I ever learned to study, and I never stopped studying after I graduated. I still study today. I go to coffee shops and I just work on it and I study, and I really enjoy the process, and I actually find it very low stress. It really calms me down, and I just can patiently study for over the course of a lifetime. And I remember reading a statistic, I don't know exactly the percentage, but it was an overwhelming amount. It was like over 50% of Americans, it might be outdated, and I don't know what it is in Canada, but something like 50% will never read a book ever again after their university, after they finish schooling. And it's really this belief that you finish your education. Like I did it, it's done now, and now I can just go and get to work and do all my stuff. And I'd really just like to challenge anyone to play with that idea. And I mean, for me, it's like, I know that I'll never be done studying. I'm very active with the way I learned. Everybody learns passively, so that's what this is all about. Everybody's passively learning all the time, whether you like it or not. But it's that active attitude of like, I'm going to continue actively learning for the rest of my life, which not only adds years to your life, it's also just deeply fulfilling because you're always just in a stimulated space of trying to understand this complicated world. We're never going to understand it all, even close, but it's the fun of learning, and that's what I think I want to teach my kids. It's just that it's a fun process, and I know I love learning, and it's not something you ever would want to finish your education. So ask yourself, are you active or passive in your education? Have fun. We'll see you next time.